Hello, everybody. Welcome. We are waiting for more people to be joining us, and we're going to be starting. We have Nivar here, Sebastian from the team. Do you want to give just say hi, do a mic check?
Sure. Hi, everyone. So, mic check, I guess. I think it works.
Yep, it works perfect.
Right.
Okay, let's give a couple more minutes for everybody joining. Oh, we have Ines here, who's also now. Ines, you should go and request to be a speaker. Hey, Rat. Hello, Sigma Investing, Angry Train. Hey, Helvetia Staking. Let's give a couple more minutes for people to join, and then we begin this talk. Okay, Ines, do you want to do a mic check on your side?
Mic check. Hello.
Yeah, it's working perfectly. Okay, so let's give one more minute for everybody to be joining. And remember, also share this space. There's a button in the bottom right corner of your screen. You just press it, share, and post this with all your friends. And then we get more people here to get everybody informed about how the migration process is going to be like. How does it work with the validator registration phase? This and more we're going to be talking here today. So very interesting talk, actually. Okay, so let's start now. In the future, I'm going to get like a soundboard or something to have like entry music and stuff. That would be cool. But for now, bear with me. I know it has been a little bit quiet in the beginning, but then let's get this party started. Thanks a lot, everybody, for joining, and thank you for joining a couple of team members that we have here that I want to welcome to the stage. We have Ines, who is a technical writer for the team. So Ines, do you want to say hi again? Maybe quickly introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, I'm Ines. I'm from Portugal and I am the technical writer of the core team. And yeah.
Thank you. And together with Ines, we have Nivar, who is also a developer from the team.
Yeah, hi. This is Basti. So I'm a member of the core team for a bunch of years now. And I'm developing or co-developing with the rest of the core team the Albatross protocol. So welcome, everyone.
Welcome. Thank you. I see new faces joining. Jasper, thank you. Welcome. And Fons, welcome. Remember to share this with everybody and to get more people in here. So Ines and Basti, I think with both of you, we have a very good, you both have very good insight and understanding into the migration process. So let's begin with having a quick overview about the migration process. We have a blog post that we released recently, and people can find it in nimiq.com/blog for everybody that is going to be listening this later. So go to nimiq.com/blog, and there we have all the details, but let's go over it then. Basti, we have maybe 3 main phases. How would you quickly describe them? What are their purpose? And how is the entire migration process looking like?
Sure. So just like start with this, the 3 main phases that we have are first the validator registration phase, and which is currently ongoing. Then we have the pre-stake phase following that, and then ultimately all of this concludes with the transition phase, which there can actually be many of those or more than one of those. But generally speaking, these 3 distinct phases exist. The first one that we're currently in is, as I said, the validator registration phase. That is all about getting a healthy set of validators for the Genesis epoch, so the first epoch of the proof-of-stake chain. Because for obvious reasons, on the proof-of-work chain, there is no validators. So and we need them to start validating the proof-of-stake chain. So basically, this allows the community or anybody interested really to register their own validator, such that when the Genesis block is created, they can participate in the block production in the very, very first epoch, so the very first block really. is going to be produced by this set of validators. Yeah, that is currently going, and then after that, the validator is only half of the piece of the picture. The validators need to be assigned stake by those that are willing to stake their coins for a validator for the Genesis block. That is also very important because that is ultimately going to determine the distribution of stake for the validators and thus also the distribution of slots that are going to be assigned to these validators in the Genesis block itself. So the Genesis block also already has, as you probably would expect, a proper slot distribution according to the stake that the validators have on the proof of work chain, which we signal using specific transactions. I think we're going to go over these in a different talk probably. And then lastly, when all of this has concluded, there will be a candidate block. That candidate block is going to be the one that is going to be taken as a snapshot for the state, and it will be converted into a Genesis block for proof-of-stake chain. And as soon as enough validators have created this Genesis block and agree on a hash that this Genesis block has, I believe the window for that is 24 hours, then all of these validators will start or will use this Genesis block to then start the chain proper within this window. If they don't, then we will start with a new migration block or new candidate block and start the process again. So that is why there can be more than those. I don't know, maybe went a little bit too much into detail because I guess we are going to talk about a couple of these again during this space, and there will probably be other spaces for the other phases as well.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine, Basti. Thanks a lot for the detailed explanation. Yeah, as you correctly mentioned, we are going to be focusing on validator registration phase. It's good to have an overview of what's coming and what are all the phases. And we are focusing on validator registration phase for this space because this is what is open right now. So as the validator registration phase, let's go right into that. It is a critical phase, right? Because I would say it's kind of like a cornerstone for the rest of the phases, right? Can you explain a little bit about why it's essential to have many validators? How does decentralization comes into play here for them? For this phase that is open. I don't know, Basti or Ines.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, the count of validators is kind of directly proportional to the decentralization aspect, just like having many miners is. There's other things that obviously play a part in this, which is sort of like geolocation and maybe on what kind of hardware this runs and what kind of data center this is and so on and so forth. But the amount of validators themselves is a very important metric in this, and we would like to have as many of those as we can, proper validators that is, so those that also show up and actually validate blocks. So that is quite important. Also, as you mentioned, it's kind of the baseline for all of the phases to follow. Any other phase builds on this phase, or like any phase builds on the prior phases, basically, to get the stake allocation going. And a healthy distribution of stake kind of requires that we have a healthy amount of validators to begin with. So that is for sure a fairly important piece to the puzzle. New validators can obviously also be registered once the chain already runs. That is also probably a fair bit easier to do, but for the Genesis block and to be part of the very first epoch, this needs to be happening within, I believe, the next 3 weeks, but correct me if I'm wrong here. So yeah, this is for sure fairly crucial, and we are very happy to see part of the community has already done so. So that's quite cool.
And so a follow-up question. Then in these 3 weeks, as you mentioned, when the validator registration phase is open, basically, people can register their validators. Does this include staking pools as well?
So, I mean, when you refer to staking pools, I assume you mean a validator pool, which basically is going to be a pool. It's going to be a validator that is ultimately going to accept stake from other stakers other than himself. So, first off, and importantly, you cannot deny this. So, if somebody wants to stake for you, they can do that. You know, there's no means of saying that you don't want this. That is just not possible. However, some are specifically targeting this and are making themselves available for stakers to be to be sort of dedicating their stake to them. And this is just from the point of view of the protocol. This is just a regular validator as any other. The difference that exists is sort of in the setup that these validators are going to run, because what they will have to do is they will have to keep track of the individual stakers that they have, and they will also need to be able to process payments to those stakers of the rewards that the validator gets given. But for the process itself, it is exactly the same. Maybe the only difference is that if you want to run a validator pool, please get in touch with us so we can add you and your sort of credentials in a way, so we can give you a name and we can make you available in the wallet once that becomes relevant. So it would be beneficial for you, but also for us if you get in touch with us, and then we can give you a name and stuff, maybe an icon, I don't know.
Yeah, like labeling the pool. Like I see there's already some that are labeled and that can appear in the wallet, right? The ones that you mentioned that are already registered. And okay, so now, as you mentioned, then every validator it's, let's say, or can be staked for, but some of them are designed purposefully for validator pools. And those are, some are there, are registering right now. And after the validator registration phase is closed, can a new validator register somehow before the Genesis block, or how does it work?
You mean after the validation? So the validator registration closes in like 3 weeks, and if it is possible to still get one in after the fact?
Yes.
No. So that is not possible. And also, if the window has passed and you want to register a validator, then please wait until the proof of stake chain has started and register a validator within the first epoch. If you follow the steps to create a validator, which involves sending NIM to an address which is not going to be under your control once proof of stake launches. So these funds will be transferred into the staking contract, but only those that have happened within this window. So it is very important to not do these things if these windows have elapsed, because these funds will be burned otherwise, and that obviously is very bad, and nobody wants that to happen. So if you want to register a validator, make sure to read the blog post and see the exact dates within which this is possible. And if for whatever reason this time window has elapsed and you have forgot or whatever to register your validator, then please wait until the chain has started and you can register your validator then.
Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, so with that being said, now how would one, or what is the process of becoming a validator? Let's look into that. Ines, can you explain briefly what are the technical steps to register a validator? How does it work?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, the registration ends on October 6th, so you can register your validator until then. After that, we have the pre-stake, but we no longer accept validator registrations. So the first step to become one of the first validators of the proof of stake is to have your wallet prepared with 100k NIM. That will pay the deposit that is required to register, right? Then I will post on the chat the documentation so you can see the step-by-step process. But basically, you need to generate a validator address and keys. That process includes 6 transactions. You need to pay a small fee to that, so you also need extra Luna for that. And then finally, you need to commit the validator registration by paying the validator deposits. This amount will be locked until the beginning of the POS chain. After completing the registration, you can track your validator and other validators in our Nimiq Watch. We are currently with 7 validators fully registered and 4 that already have registered but haven't paid the deposit.
Okay.
I will post the link for the documentation.
Thank you. You mentioned Nimiq Watch. That's the blockchain explorer, right?
Yes.
Yeah. In case somebody new is listening, that's Nimiq.watch. That's the URL. And there's also another one that is also done by the community. That is Nimiq Hub, nimiqhub.com. And that's also an explorer that shows you the validators that are registered right now. So it's pretty cool that there's many, right? As you say, there's like 6 already, and 4 that are waiting to get the staked amount, right?
7 fully registered.
7. Yeah, that's great. And this has been open for only like a week, right?
Yes, 1 week, and it ends on October 6th.
Okay, nice. And then anything else that we need to talk about that process, Basti? I don't know if Ines covered everything, or you want to?
No, I think that pretty much. I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, the only thing is to really take note of the dates. That is fairly important, and read the documentation to do it properly. There might also be a tool that does this for you, but I'm not 100% sure how that works. We would have to ask the people in the team that did that. So these transactions, there might be a tool that does that for you. Maybe Stefan knows, actually. I'm not sure.
Stefan, you want to come to the stage? If you want, just request Mike and we'll let you in. Stefan, also a team member that is working on that area. Yeah, he requested. Let's see. No, we have actually Brad and Stefan. Okay, I added you both, but Brad, let's wait, please, until for questions after we have our topics covered, if you don't mind, if that's okay with you. And perfect, thank you. And Stefan, I think you also were invited.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. Hello, everybody. Yeah, so to briefly answer the question regarding the validator registration, we have developed a tool called the validator registration, which will generate the necessary validator keys for you, including the voting key and the signing key. And after you funded that validator address with the necessary NIM, where Ines was talking about, it will send the necessary transactions for you, those 6 transactions in order to register as a validator. The final step, like the deposit of 100K, has to be sent manually, and you are able to send that 100K NIM from whatever address you have, as long as it's conform the specification as detailed in the developer documentation.
Okay, thanks a lot. So go and visit in the blog. We have the documentation, and also Nesh is posting the link. Go ahead and look into that. And if you have any questions of how the process looks like and what you need to do, just go and visit Telegram or Discord. Telegram, the group is called Nimiq, and in Discord we are at discord.gg/Nimiq, and team members will help you there and will guide you to the group that we have for developers, where we can discuss about this and help you. So in terms of what happens after you are, like, once you register as a validator, what happens after that? Do you want to add something there? After that pre-staking phase begins and you're already, you should keep your validator running, right? And wait until activation phase. And what else? Is there something you guys would like to add? I don't know, Stefan, since you recently joined.
Yeah, so once you have finished your registration, your validator registration, there are some more steps that has to be taken to prepare for the last phase, so namely the activation phase. That is that you have to set up a full node on the proof of work chain, because that one will act as a bridge between your migration and eventually what's currently happening on the proof of work chain. So after you finish your registration, you set up a proof of work node that then can be monitored by the tools that we've developed, and it will, once the pre-staking phase closes, it will start sending readiness transactions in order to signal other registered validators that you are ready whether or not you're ready for launching the proof of stake chain.
Nice. Ines, anything you would like to add, or Stefan got everything?
No, I think he got everything.
Nice. Okay, and then with the readiness transactions is when it actually starts during the activation phase. And you mentioned then when people need to start running a validator, a node, a server. What kind of considerations should people take before running a validator? Basti, maybe you want to mention something there.
So generally, as somebody who has NIM and wants to stake those, there is obviously an economic discussion to be had when it starts to make sense to run a validator and when it still makes sense to not run a validator, but put your stake up for another validator who's then going to take a little bit of a fee from your rewards, but you don't have to run the hardware yourself. So this is one, I believe, probably going to be fairly central aspect to this. That there should be a fairly easy calculation that can be made if you know what node would cost you, like for maybe to run this with a service or to run this yourself, then you know what this data center node or the data center machine, virtual machine, will cost you. And then it really is a question on whether or not that is worth it for the rewards that you're going to generate with the stake that you have. Obviously, once you want to run a validator pool, it becomes an entirely different topic, because that you obviously will have to run yourself for the most part. So there, it really doesn't really make sense to not do this. But other than that, these will require some attention, generally speaking. So they obviously need to be running and they need to have uptime that is as close to 100% as can be achieved. So you cannot, it's not exactly like a shoot and forget kind of ordeal. So you will want to also monitor this to some extent and maybe even set up some monitoring for that as well. You probably want to be somewhat tech or like close to tech, I guess. So you know how to do these things in a server. That is probably also a fairly big part of the consideration. If you feel uncomfortable with running a server and doing like some command line shenanigans, then that is probably a little bit complicated to begin with. But then again, that's also maybe some nice way of learning how to do these kinds of things. So, but these are probably going to be the most central pieces. But since I have so far not ran a validator, but Stefan did, maybe he has some additional insights to this. I don't know.
Yeah, so I've been running a validator on the testnet for over a year now, or one validator and multiple nodes. And I think the most important thing after you set up everything is to set up proper monitoring, and that will also actively notify you when stuff isn't working. As Basti was saying, it's very easy to set it up and then forget about it, but running a validator needs proper maintaining and needs proper maintenance. You have server updates. Maybe at some later point in time, we have some additional feature that will be added to the protocol, which need a new version of the client. So, besides being comfortable with the CLI terminal, I think monitoring is the most important feature or property that you should set up after everything is done.
Okay, thank you. And I think because you've already been running validators, Stefan, can you speak to the hardware that is required and maybe costs in terms of VPS hosting?
So I started like multiple nodes as cheap as possible. I remember like giving it were VPSs as a hosting provider, and they had, I believe, 2 cores and like 4 gigs of RAM and 40 gigs of storage of SSD. So lately we've been running the spammer on the public testnet, and there it turns out that it wasn't able to keep up. So the server wasn't performant enough in order to be able to process all the transactions in a reasonable time. So it fell behind and eventually was unable to keep up with the chain and produce blocks. So I doubled that. So right now I'm looking at like 4 cores, 8 gigs and 80 gigs of storage. And right now it's doing its thing properly. It's not falling behind in anything. So I would give that as a minimum baseline. And I believe like at least SSD is really important, because we're doing lots of reads, lots of writes, lots of I/O. So I think that are the points that you should at least consider when setting up a server or setting up your infrastructure for either a node or a node that's also a validator.
Yeah, great answer. Thanks a lot. Very specific. And Basti, I know that you're not maybe running validators all the time, but you are testing and stress testing with different validator sets. Maybe Jeff is working more in that area, but is there anything you would like to add, hearing these specs from Stefan and mentioning the fact that I/O reads are very important? Anything from the technical design or development side that you want to add?
Yeah, so generally speaking, this is mostly going to be bound by I/O, at least when the chain is running at like high capacities. Most of the time, we would expect this to not be the case. Also, the tree that we are looking at, so basically how many accounts we are having, is at current state quite small compared to what we have tested this with. So I believe we have tested with like 60 or so million accounts. And then stuff gets a little bit slow because it's just a lot of data and access times vary a little, because you can imagine that finding a piece of information within 60 million pieces of information is a little bit more time consuming than doing this in like 150,000 or so. So we have tested with quite large numbers, or comparatively quite large numbers, and eventually these get a lot more expensive. So in terms of computational expense, than what we expect this to be in the beginning. So I would assume that like for the start of proof of stake, it will not be as crazy because there is not as many accounts, the transaction load is not extremely high. I don't know what validators are looking at in terms of when to pay out validator pools, when they are going to pay out the rewards to their constituent stakers. Because that is likely going to be one of the largest amounts of transactions that are going to be generated. But generally speaking, it's going to be, I feel, quite manageable in the beginning. And if this grows a bunch, then it's going to be a little bit more intense, but I think there's plenty of room to grow into for now. And then obviously we are also working on optimizing as much as we can, so that scaling this up should hopefully be no problem. But that is also one of the biggest points that we are currently looking at.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Basti. Okay, so maybe we're getting to the end of the agenda today. Something that I would like to add there is maybe some people would ask, like, why would I like to run a validator? And there's some key considerations there. We are actually planning some type of campaign to give incentives for people that are helping there. But because the main why there, the main answer is to support Nimiq as a project, as a network, as a community. Having as many validators as possible is a good thing. And as we were saying at the beginning, so running a validator is basically supporting the project. I would like to go back to something that in the previous blog post that we posted, we had we discussed about this. I was discussing with Basti about, not discussing, but we were talking about our stance in terms of validator from the community and how we should be make it very prominent in the blog post, letting people know, and I want to make some space in this space to remind everybody that getting more validators is healthy for the network. It helps in decentralization, and that's what we would like to promote, and we're here to empower the community. We want to also send a shout out to projects like Helvetia that is listening, and also Stake that is going to be allowing people to run validators that maybe don't have so much technical skill as Stefan was mentioning. So I just want to make some space for that. I don't know if you want to share something in that direction, Basti.
I'm sorry, can you repeat part of that? I was a little bit distracted for a second. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, going back to how important it is to empower the community to run their own validators, and how we would like to do this as much as possible. So empowering everybody and reminding everybody to run a validator, or to contact people that you know that might want to run a validator to support the project.
Yeah, I mean, obviously. So if you are thinking about running a validator, or if you're considering running a validator, feel free to get in touch. We are happy to like support with knowledge and whatnot, to like give hints in specific directions. That definitely is something that we can help with. The overall the idea of being part of this migration process, I think, is actually quite cool. So I will I'm almost guaranteed to do this myself as well, because I just find it quite cool to begin with. Also to be there from the very beginning. So this is definitely kind of a nice thing, and obviously supports the project in a meaningful way, while also doing something for yourself as well. So I think it's actually quite a nice thing to do. And I believe there might also be some promotional stuff coming up for this, but that is something that Richie knows more about than I do. But there might be something there. Not sure though. But even if there isn't, definitely consider it. And if you are already considering it but are held back by maybe some technical knowledge that you're missing, or some other pieces of information that you would require, feel free to reach out to us in the Coders channel, or also in the other channels, and then somebody, I'm sure, can help out.
And maybe one last question there is, in the wallet we have the validator trust score, right? Is there any? There's of course going to be positive for the validators that registered since now, because their trust score will be higher because they have been the longer in the network.
So this is only going to ever affect validators who will sort of indicate to us that they are actual validator pools, so that they are open to receive stake from other stakers. And the age of a validator, I believe, has some impact onto this metric, but I'm not entirely sure as to how big this is. The metric that is used for this has changed a couple of times, and I'm not 100% sure where it currently stands. It's not something that I have worked on in the last year or so, I'm not entirely sure as to how this works. But Stefan is raising his hand, so he probably knows some about it, which is great. So let's hear it.
Yeah, go ahead, Stefan.
Sorry, the raised hand was the previous topic we were talking about. It was for considering like setting up a validator. One thing that I just wanted to add on that part is that I'm pretty sure that we are keeping the Proof-of-Stake testnet live. So if you're not currently feeling comfortable with running a validator, I think it's just best to wait after the migration, and then set up like a validator on a Proof-of-Stake testnet right now, and get yourself comfortable with the whole setup and situation in a peace of mind way, because everything that happens on testnet, there is no value there, like the NIM don't hold any value. So if you accidentally mess up, there is no issue there. So I guess that's the best way for new people, or people that are considering it and not sure about it yet. The best way to get started. Regarding the trust score, I also have to give an absence on the answer regarding that. Regarding the age, like Basti said, the formula changed a couple of times now, so we have to look it up whether or not there's actually age is involved when calculating the validator trust score.
Yeah. I also was not sure. That's what I was asking. But we'll check with the people that are in charge of that right now, and we'll share more information within the community so you guys know. Because I think there could be something there, but I also don't know. I'm not sure. So let's not share misinformation. For now, supporting the project and as Basti said, and leaking a little bit, there could be some campaign plan for the future. So we're always going to reward and thank the community for their support. There have been a lot of support from you guys, so we love you. Thanks a lot for everything, and it's happening, right? This is the moment. This is the time where people can register their validators to proof of stake. It sounds like a dream, but it's not. It's real. It's here. Thanks a lot for Basti, Stefan, and Ines, and for building this and working so hard on this. And now we maybe can open for questions and comments. Maybe we start with Rat, who is here as a speaker also. Rat, go ahead. Do you want to comment on something?
Yeah. Hey, Reggie. I had a couple questions. One was about like the Nimiq IG account. Like, I did a little bit of like digging, and I found out like the Nimiq, like the Nimiq handle on Instagram. Like the person that uses it, they're inactive, but they have other people that are active that know them on Instagram. So it's something that we could potentially get from them if we wanted to buy it off of them or some shit like that. So I was wondering if that was a possibility at all. And then also, I was also curious if like if the Nimiq store funds could be used for potentially like staking it and just like keeping it staked and then later on using it for marketing.
Okay, so.
And I had other questions, but I'll leave with those two for you right now.
Okay, sure. So I think both questions for me. Let me see. The first one about the Instagram account. Yeah, I've been after that account for some years now. I tried that a couple of years ago, of trying to connect with people that know the owner or previous owner of the @Nimiq account in Instagram, but I didn't get a reply. Let's talk about this offline. If you're, I mean, I can try it again. I'm always happy to try because I would love to get that handle. And
okay.
if you can help there, then we can discuss about how to do it. But yeah, I'm interested, and for sure, let's talk about this.
Okay.
Cool. And the second idea...
I'm definitely down to talk about that later. Sorry.
That's okay. And the second idea about using the community fund, the stores for staking, and then using that for marketing. Yeah, that sounds interesting. Let's. We're interested in starting again the community. We have the community funding board, but we have not been very active with that recently. So we've been thinking about reacting, like starting again, or having the people, the previous representatives, and maybe having new elections. But in any way, what we are after is creating projects like this one that you're mentioning, and maybe discussing those in some type of forum where community members can decide, and we will be happy to support something like that, because this could be something like maybe we can use it for marketing, but also we would love to have more a community-driven growth strategy together with community members. So we can talk about this for sure, and we are interested. Misha is there listening, so he'll be helping as well.
Okay, that's awesome. I also had a question about like how much the Web3 global weekly sponsorship costs.
I mean, I don't know if it makes sense to, or if I can discuss or disclose prices, but in general, if you're really concerned about the amount, it's really not that expensive. So we are pretty happy with the result, because it allows us to discuss or sit in the table with a lot of different projects and communities. So we're trying out this week, and because the price is really not that high, we are considering doing that again in the future, leading up to the migration to proof of stake.
Okay, that's awesome, because I was just asking because if it was expensive, I was gonna help with that a little bit. But that's exciting to hear that it's probably good for the cost. And then also I had a question about someone I was helping earlier a few days ago swap a bunch of USDC into Nimiq. Basically, they locked themselves out of a login file. So I had a question about brute forcing a login file. Basically, if there's like a brute force preventative on the website, because so far I haven't noticed one, but I was gonna like I have like the password, but it's probably like 2 characters off or 1 character off. So I was just gonna set up like a script to brute force it, but I was curious if it had any brute force protections.
No,
And I have the login file.
No, it does not, and that is so part of the reason why that is because all of this runs locally in your machine. So even if we added that, it would, for like some advanced users, it would be very easy to circumvent this anyways, because this is never going to be on any server whatsoever. So it's all running in your machine only, and if you want to brute force this, you can do that, no problem. I mean, it's not going to be easy if you don't know at least most of the password, because that is just not how this usually works. But if you know most of it, then and there's only 1 letter that you need to try, then it's fairly limited test space.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'll probably end up helping them with that then.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, Rod. And happy to hear you again around here. And maybe if there's some other questions also from the audience, I see Helvetia is around, also Thor, Nimiq Pay. If you would like to also get the mic and ask something, you're welcome to do so. Or you can leave it in the comment section if there's any more questions or comments from the audience. Let's give them a minute. I seen comments that Rad is planning to set up a validator and is considering to use Stake Nim for the services. Something interesting there that we have to mention is that Stake with a Q is a project done by a community member that allows, as I said before, for people that are not very tech savvy to run a validator. So we call it a validator as a service. They provide the maintenance and the security, and you basically spin up a validator and you manage it. Somehow like how you manage a virtual server right now. You don't connect the server and you don't have it, connected to electricity with high availability, redundancy, power supplies, and so on, and good internet connection and all of that. You just use it from a dashboard. So that's something like what they're planning. But this service, it's going to be available after the. I'm speaking for him here, for the developer. Maybe Basti wants to weigh in, but the point is, now today that we spoke about the validator registration phase and the different phases, there is a moment where the validator needs to be sending transactions for readiness, signaling readiness, right? And this feature is not built into the service done by the developer from Stake, because it's meant mostly for once proof of stake is running, then you can run a validator under normal conditions. But since this is a one in a lifetime type of deal, validator registration and signaling readiness and migrating, then this is not provided by Stake. So just for you guys to know, that is not an option right now. Right now, the option is running the code yourself. And talking with the developers from the community for to get help there, and also following the documentation that Inés was talking about before and sharing. Okay, anything that I missed? Anything that you would like to end with, Inés? Now that I mentioned you.
Maybe just reinforce what we said, that participate in the registration phase, besides being a pretty cool thing, it helps the network and marks this historic moment for Nimiq. Yeah.
Nice, thanks. Are you planning to run a validator, Inés?
I may.
Yeah, I'm thinking of also trying it out, and maybe. So yeah, it's I mean that with the documentation is pretty clear. So even though it's you don't have to be technical savvy, if you know a little bit what you're doing, getting some help, from the developers that are very helpful. So maybe we can do it. Yeah. Stefan, are you planning to run a validator?
So I will run the validator at least for Minpool, which I registered, I think, yesterday. So I sent out the validator registration transactions and also made the deposit. So that all should be good. And I think I will also run another one, just for like family and friends, I think. Yeah.
Nice, cool. Something that you would like to add to end with, Stefan?
Just if you want to get started running a validator yourself, just try out the Proof-of-Stake testnet. Get yourself familiar with the whole setup and stuff like that.
Cool. Thanks a lot. Thank you for joining. And Basti, are you planning to run a validator?
So I will probably run a validator, not a pool though. I will probably run a validator for me and like my family and maybe a couple of my friends. So it's sort of a pool, but I will do the payouts very irregularly and kind of by hand probably. So like a very low tech solution to this kind of ordeal. The staking pool kind of ordeal. But yeah, I'm fairly sure that I'll run a validator at least for the migration, probably also after that, because I think it's quite a cool thing to do. I have not really tipped my toe into this like all that much yet, but as Stefan said, and I kind of want to reinforce this as well, the testnet is for testing. So if you are interested in doing this, then absolutely go and test this on testnet, familiarize yourself with how it works, maybe see what kind of bits you're missing for the overall picture that you would like to have for this. And that is a great place to begin this for sure. And I will probably do so myself as well in the coming weeks. Also, lastly, I wanted to maybe add a little to what you talked about Stage. Which they are going to provide a validator as a service, and that obviously is absolutely great. I might also go and try that once it is launched. However, for the migration itself, I would assume, even though I am not sure about this, that the migration would not be supported by this validator as a service that they provide, because that is just a one-off, and usually these things are difficult, or not difficult, but effort to put into when it's much easier to leave this out of this specific service. And I would assume that is the case, but that is really the only addition there. So if you were planning on migrating sort of with this service, then that is something where you would need to do some research on, because I would not fully expect this to work. But other than that, not much to add. Thanks everyone for coming here, and see you guys probably sometime soon for the pre-stake space, I'm assuming.
Exactly. Okay, guys. So thanks a lot for joining. We are having another talk right after this one, actually, with the guys from Web3 Global. Max is going to be there talking about crypto payments. So if you want to check that out, go check it out. And it's going to be very interesting. Thank you for joining here, and see you in the next one. Rat, do you want to end with some comment there? Are you planning to run a validator?
Yeah, I'm planning to run a validator because I got enough incentive to, and I want to learn just so I can help other people set up their own in the future, because I know that I'll have a couple people staking through mine as well.
Nice. Thanks a lot, and thanks a lot for your support. Okay, guys, see you in the next one. Thank you for joining. And remember, tell people to run their own validators and support the network. Bye. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.